Shuttlepod Down, written by SparkBrony, narrated by the great and powerful Boo. Chapter 1, Part 2. Tom steps into the turbolift. As the door closes, he calls out, "Deck 2, Section 13. The turbolift obediently takes him up. Then it shifts to go sideways, before it slides to a stop. He walks down the corridor a few moments before entering the ship's mess. The lone Talaxian crew member of the Starship Voyager bounces a little. "Is it ready?" Tom smiles. "It's ready. I can bring her in whenever she's ready." Commander Tuvok sits back from his soup. It is illogical why someone would spend so much time on a meaningless task as making a new program geared specifically for children, when we have quite a few children's programs in our database. Tom opens his mouth to respond, but Neelix beats him to it. "Yes, Mr. Vulcan, it would be illogical." He raises a single finger. "But who says that children are necessarily logical?" Tuvok glowers a bit, but he leans forward to take another sip of his soup. After he swallows, "You have a point, Mr. Neelix." Neelix claps his hands. "I'll go get her." He scurries from the room, Tom in tow. A quick ride in the turbolift, and finally they are walking into astrometrics. 7 of 9 turns around. "Can I help you?" Neelix claps his hands together. "We're here for Naomi." 7 furrows her brow. "What do you have need of Naomi Wildman for?" Neelix bounces again. "You remember when we went back in time to Earth in the year of 1996? 7 shifts on her feet and folds her arms. "Yes, I am somewhat familiar with Captain Braxton." Neelix nods. "Well, when the away team was on the surface, Kess and I were reviewing all the different television broadcasts during our time in orbit. Well, we reviewed a lot of what was playing at the time, and we found a TV show called My Little Ponytails. We checked out many episodes, and we thought the programming would be fun." Tom steps forward as Naomi walks forward. "So, Neelix had an idea to build an interactive world for you to play in. I went through the ship's archives, and it turns out there were many different versions of My Little Pony. Well, it turns out the most popular by far was a version started in the year 2010. It was called Friendship is Magic. So, I built several simulations with the characters from the show. Everything from what are called friendship problems to monster attacks, and it's all for you." Naomi smiles widely. "A new program to play on the holodeck?" Both Tom and Neelix nod happily. Getting a squeal from the little girl, she turns to 7. "May I go?" 7 looks at Naomi, then looks at Tom and Neelix. "As long as it's okay with your mother." Tom grins. "I've talked to Samantha. She's all for her playing in Equestria." Naomi frowns. "Equestria?" "That's what they call where they are from. So," he holds out a hand. "Want to go? I'll be with you for the first friendship problem. Then you can do as much as you want. I've programmed all the seasons of the show into the program. You can go and help fight Nightmare Moon or Tirek. It's a whole world for you to play in. Call it an early birthday present." Naomi claps her hands and bounces up and down. Then she rushes for the door, disappearing through it. Neelix smiles. "I doubt we'll see much of her for the next couple months," he says as Tom follows Naomi. As they head to the holodeck, Tom spends the time telling her what he's learned about the show, and how life typically is in Equestria. Finally, they get to the holodeck and Tom stops her. "This first program is to familiarize you with the characters and get an idea of what a friendship problem could be like." He gestures and the doors open to a familiar open grid of the holodeck. They walk inside and he grabs her hand. "Computer, start program Shuttlepod Down, right after the Shuttlepod crashes into the chalk hills." The computer makes several sounds as it complies. Then, the shape of a Type 8 Shuttlepod appears around them. Crewman Silas steps forward. "Sir?" Tom smiles at him. "Get started assessing the damage." Naomi looks around at the interior of the Shuttlepod. "But aren't we supposed to be in Equestria?" Tom nods. "We are, but we had to have a plausible reason for humans to be here. for them to interact with you as you are. Ah, she nods as she moves to the bench. So, for our part, this is like an away mission? He smiles as she hands him an expedition pack. She grabs one for herself. Can I open the hatch? He nods, and she presses the pad on the control panel. The door slowly lowers, revealing the bright blue sky. As the hatch finishes lowering, a thunk announces the arrival of Rainbow Dash. Naomi's eyes bulge as she stops to look at the Pegasus on the roof of the shuttle. Is that? She says softly. Tom nods as Rainbow Dash walks to the edge of the roof of the shuttle and sits on her haunches. Her name is Rainbow Dash, comes a soft voice from behind them. Naomi and Tom whirl to see Twilight Sparkle sitting there. I'm Twilight Sparkle, and this is... She's cut off by an impact from Naomi as she leaps at the alicorn. She's so pretty! Naomi squeals as she hugs the purple princess. Twilight, for her part, has spread her wings in alarm. Tom grins. I'm Tom Paris of the Starship Voyager. The young lady grabbing you right now is Naomi Wildman. Twilight finds herself hugging the girl back. Well, it's quite unusual to hug some pony you've just met, she says softly, bringing her wings around the hugs the girl tighter. But I find it hard to object such a genuine show of affection, her brows furrows. Though I'm curious as to why. Tom kneels down to get closer to eye level with the ponies. Quite a few human girls wish they would have ponies of their own to play with. Equines are quite common on my world, though they don't talk, or do magic, or fly. Twilight looks at him seriously. Then she brings Naomi away. Is that true? She asks softly. Naomi nods enthusiastically. I love ponies and horses. Twilight giggles. Well, I can't dispute that. Perhaps we should head into town. Maybe we can figure out why you crashed here. And maybe if I talk to Princess Celestia, I can figure out how to get you all home. That would be wonderful, he says, as the sound of thundering hooves announces the arrival of the other ponies. Twilight handles the introductions, and they end up heading towards town. Before too long, Spike arrives and tells his tale of what happened to the Cutie Mark Crusaders. Twilight turns to them. Well, Tom, you can head back to your ship, or you can head into town. We need to handle this. Naomi looks up at Tom, then back to Twilight. Maybe we can help. If one of your friends is in danger, we need to help. Need to help? Tom kneels down. It's part of how Starfleet works. And more importantly, it's how Captain Janeway operates Voyager. If someone's in trouble, if it's within our power, we help. Twilight furrows her brows and shifts her wings. Well, she looks around at her friends and then back at Naomi. Fine, you can help. Let's go. She turns and gallops off, Naomi and Tom in hot pursuit along with her friends. They rush through the trees and end up in a large park. A group of ponies had formed a loose circle surrounding a dense corpse of bushes. Get them! They're hiding in there! One of the ponies calls out. Filthy Rich is there, Diamond Tiara at his side. He rushes over to Twilight. Though he skids to a stop seeing the humans, he growls softly. We need to capture them, so we can find the real girls. He points at Tom and Naomi. What are those, and what are they doing here? Twilight gestures. They are visitors here. We need to help them. But I need to talk about what you're saying about Apple Bloom and her friends. He stomps a hoof. Princess, I trust my daughter. I know she may be difficult at times, but she's been saying for weeks that she's thought something was wrong with them. Twilight narrows her eyes. Wrong? How so? He waves a hoof. They were just acting really weird. But everything came to a head this morning. She said when she saw Sweetie Belle have a green flame go over her body, and she changed to look like Lyra for a few minutes to go into Sugar Cube Corner. Then she followed her for a while, and again those green flames, and she turned into Sweetie Belle. And she did that the second time in front of two others, and they didn't even flinch. That's hardly convincing evidence, Twilight scoffs. He looks back at the bushes and then turns back to Twilight. I don't care what you say. I believe my daughter. Those girls need to be captured and interrogated to find out where the real fillies are. Twilight looks down, thinking hard. Then she turns to Diamond Tiara. Are you sure of what you are saying, Diamond? The pink filly steps forward confidently. I told Daddy what happened. They are changelings. Tom leans down. What do you see, Naomi? She steps forward, looking around at all the ponies. She moves over to the corpse of bushes. 3 fillies are crouching there. Scootaloo is strapped to her wagon. One of its wheels seem to be broken off. She's holding her left wing at an odd angle. Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle move to stand in front of Scootaloo, between her and Naomi, as she walks slowly towards them. Stay away, Apple Bloom growls. She's my friend and she's hurt. Sweetie Belle's horn glows a faint green as well. Naomi turns to Twilight. Tell me about these changelings. Twilight steps forward slowly. We don't know much about them. A few years ago, they attacked Canterlot during my brother's wedding. They feed on love, on the strong emotions of ponies and others. She looks around. We were able to fight them off. A shield that my brother can do, energized by the love of his bride-to-be, ejected them from the city. Though much information we have about them is still based on old legends and myths. We weren't even sure they existed until they showed up at the wedding. Naomi looks back at the fillies, then over at Diamond Tiara. She nudges Twilight. What about her? Diamond Tiara? Twilight frowns. Her and the Cutie Mark Crusaders have been at odds with each other. She's bullied them more than once. Though they've been fairly okay pretty recently. She calls them blank flanks. Blank flanks? Twilight unfolds her wings to touch softly the cutie mark on Fluttershy's flank. 3 butterflies. A cutie mark is what makes a pony what they are. Learning what a pony is, what makes them special, is a big part of growing up. That's why they started being the Cutie Mark Crusaders, so they could find out what makes them special. They try different things, trying to figure out what resonates with them. They've tried many different things. Their marks will come, she says quietly. Naomi walks forward, both her hands out. I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. Rarity and Applejack step forward, to be stopped by Rainbow Dash. She's on to something. Let her handle it, Rainbow Dash says quietly to her friends. Naomi steps into the bushes and kneels down. I promise. I'm here to help you. She reaches over and unbuckles the harness around Scootaloo's barrel. She continues to make soothing sounds as she reaches around Scootaloo, and making sure to be careful of the filly's injured ring. She gathers up the orange Pegasus. She turns around with Scootaloo in her arms, with Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle staying close, watching Naomi closely. She walks over to Twilight and sets Scootaloo down in front of Twilight. Then she turns back to Diamond Tiara. Shame on you. There's no way these girls could be changelings. Diamond Tiara scowls. What do you know? You are just a crazy-looking creature. How do I know you aren't a changeling? Naomi rolls her eyes. Because changelings wouldn't know me to be able to copy how I look. That's simple. But on these girls, Twilight says they feed on love, which means they don't know what love is on their own. They don't feel it themselves. She stands up. Look at them. They feel love for each other. Both Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom are protecting Scootaloo with their own bodies. You don't do that if you don't love your friend. She looks over at the girls. Their sisters are all up with them, staying close to them. These girls are loved and feel love for those around them. They aren't feeding on any love because they're giving love back. There's no way they could be changelings. She smiles as Twilight comes forward. You are correct, she smiles. And you were willing to go right into a situation where you could have been injured. If you had been wrong, you could have been hurt seriously. She whirls around to Filthy Witch. Your daughter has committed a very cruel prank. You need to deal with her appropriately. She lowers her voice, or I will. filthy rich blanches and gathers up his daughters. I'll make sure she realizes the error of her ways. But, Daddy, Diamond Tiara says, only to be cut off by her father. The princess has spoken, young filly. But you can't take the word of that creature, she whines. Twilight paws at the ground and growls. She was speaking with saner than any pony here. Her horn lights up and her voice is amplified. Show's over, ponies! Time to go home! Many of the ponies already moved away. Those that remained looked abashed and start heading back into town. Twilight looks at Naomi. You are a smart young lady. She's interrupted. Janeway to Paris. Computer, pause program. Everything comes to a halt and he continues. Go ahead, Captain. Report to the bridge. We've detected a small transport shuttle. Its life support is failing. On my way, Captain, he says. Paris out. He turns to Naomi. Well, you've solved your first friendship problem. You can do whatever you want in this world. She smiles. I'd love to play with those three more. She points at the frozen CMC. He nods. This is just before they get their cutie marks, and I think you'll like what their marks mean. But I've got to go. He stands up taller and raises his voice. Computer, adjust program parameters. The ponies are not to notice my absence in the program. Otherwise, start the program where Naomi continues it and open the exit, please. The computer makes a sound of compliance. Parameters changed. Exit opening. It says as the large doors of the holodeck open. Tom rushes out of the holodeck. She watches as the doors disappear and she calls out, Computer, resume program. Pinkie Pie jumps over and lands next to Naomi, pulling her into a hug. It's your birthday in 2 days. We had better get ready. Naomi cocks her head to the side. For what? Pinkie's ears flop back and forth. For your party! You're welcome to Ponyville and birthday party all at one. It'll be great! Tom taps the ensign at the helm on the shoulder and slides into his chair as it is vacated. His eyes scan over the displays before him. Okay, Captain. We are at Warp 7, 30 seconds to our destination. Captain Janeway smiles. Did Naomi like her present? It's taken up all of your free time for the last couple of months. He nods. Getting their size and translating cartoons into three-dimensional characters was challenging. But I love the personalities. Though, for Pinkie Pie, I've never gotten her perfect. Why is that? He shakes his head. She's by her nature a chaotic character. So making her Matrix was really challenging. But I don't want to delay it any further. She'll be bouncy and fun for Naomi, but I don't know if she'll be exactly like her character portrayed in the stories. His attention is grabbed by the display. We're just about in visual range, Captain. Drop from warp, Mr. Paris. Voyager's warp engines drop down in power level as the ship allows the warp bubble around it to dissipate. The nacelles rotate back to their storage position as the impulse engines take over, moving the ships towards the stricken craft. Janeway stands up. Mr. Kim, sensors. Harry Kim taps his controls. It's a small intersystem shuttle or transport, minimal shielding. Large cargo bay. It's likely a hauler of some sort. I'm detecting 7 life signs, but they aren't moving. Life support is failing, and it's venting atmosphere from its engineering compartment. It looks like it's taking an impact of some sort. Maybe a meteorite. Janeway looks at her security chief. Tuvok, transporters. Not possible, Captain. Many of their systems are down. Primary communications is out. The distress signal is originating from an automated beacon. The hull, however, is comprised of primitive duranium alloy that has been charged and polarized, not unlike the armor used by old Federation starships hundreds of years ago. It'll likely scatter any transporter beams. Janeway looks down. Okay, we can't beam them off. Can we tractor them into the shuttle bay? Tuvok nods. That should not be a problem. She glances at the stricken craft. Send a medical team and security officers as well. It looks quite banged up. They'll likely have casualties. Tuvok moves to the turbo lift. Aye, Captain. The outer door closes slowly as the craft settles into the deck of the shuttle bay of the Voyager. 4 security officers join a half a dozen medically trained crew members as they move to the hatch of the stricken ship. Commander Tuvok moves forward and slaps a fist on the hatch. Open up. We are here to assist you. He's interrupted by a loud hiss, and 4 external shipping containers have concealed hatches slammed down. Hirogen soldiers rush out, their disruptors firing. 3 of the security team is down before they even draw their weapons. Tuvok dives to the side and fires as he taps his comm badge. Intruder alert in the cargo bay. He's able to say before a beam knocks him out. Red lights start to flash as the soldiers secure the shuttle bay. The leader steps forward, 2 lieutenants next to him.
Start with engineering and get control of the power systems.
They salute and move over to the main hatch, pressing the pad on the side that shows that the door is refusing to open for them. 3 soldiers move forward and place a charge on the hatch. The armed and armored commandos take the cover as the charge explodes, destroying the door.
Go,
he calls out, and 30-plus members of the hunting party rush out into the now open portal into the ship proper. In the holodeck, the program fades from around Naomi as the computer speaks. Red alert. Please report to your quarters, Naomi. She looks around. What's going on? Please report to your quarters. Red alert. Naomi huffs and she runs to the exit. She rushes through the doors and they close behind her. A small explosion rocks the ship and the lights inside the holodeck flicker as sparks erupt from one of the access panels. A moment later, the air inside the holodeck coalesces into the shape of Twilight Sparkle. Blinking, she looks around the empty holodeck, the red light flashing as the ship's siren sounds. As she approaches the door, it opens to the hallway outside. Twilight blinks once before she tentatively holds out a foreleg, sticking it into the hall. As her leg crosses the threshold, however, it starts to vanish. Pulling her leg back, she backs up quickly, falling on her rear, her leg reforming. Naomi? Tom? As she looks around, she hears the voice over the communication systems. Intruder alert. Naomi! Where's Naomi? Twilight said, looking at the door. Naomi Wildman is in Turbolift 3, the computer responds. Turning to face the console, Twilight blinks. How do I get to her? Not possible. Holographic emitters are limited to holodecks 1, 2, and sickbay only. Sickbay. Can you send me to the sickbay then? Twilight dances on her hooves in somewhat of a panic. Invalid command. Twilight closed her eyes for a moment, trying to remember how Tom talked. Computer, transfer program to sickbay. Unable to comply. Command not authorized. Great, it doesn't recognize me. Shaking her head slowly, Twilight blinked, then smiled. Lesson 84, Mimic Spell. Lighting her horn, she clears her throat before speaking in the voice of Tom Paris. Computer, transfer program Twilight Sparkle to sickbay. Confirmed. Transferring program. She squeezed softly as she gives a bright smile, her voice returning to normal as her horn glow fades. Mimic spell works every time. A moment later, she fades out.